As you may have heard on the news, tensions are building on the wharves around Australia. Work has stopped at Patrick terminals in Sydney and Brisbane today. So what are the knock-ons for our exporters? Well, the first industry to be caught up in the drama is the cotton industry. Queensland Cotton, now owned by Singapore's Olam International, is one of the major suppliers to world markets, exporting every year in May. I spoke to regional head of Olam, Richard Haire, earlier today. Richard Haire, welcome to Lateline Business.
Thank you, Tiki.
Just how is the cotton industry caught up in this dispute?
Well, we're just entering our peak export period, Tiki, so at this point we've got a very, very big crop in front of us. It's going to be a record crop by quite a big margin, and we've really just started our peak export. So we'd be looking at exporting about 150,000 bales of cotton every week, which means there's statistically about half of that caught up in this dispute. So it's about 75,000 bales, or about nearly $60 million worth of cotton that we're talking about.
You say that it's one of the best harvests, for many years. Does it have an impact on the national economy?
Well, it will eventually. I mean, Australian cotton is highly valued internationally, not just because it's a good product, but because it's reliable, and our supply chains have been very, very consistent. And so any disruption to that record, or that track record, or that consistency will have a long-term impact on the market's perception of the value of our product. So, yes, it will.
And presumably the price that you get for your cotton is not just because of the quality, but indeed because of that reliability.
That's exactly right. So, if you look at where Australian cotton's trading vis-a-vis, say, world prices, we're getting a 20 or 30% premium above world prices, and there are a number of factors that go to deliver that premium. But if you take away any single component of it, then that premium is at risk. The big issue for the industry, Tiki, is that a lot of this cotton has been sold at very, very good prices. We've had huge volatility in the cotton market over the past 6 months, and a lot of this cotton's been sold at high prices. And if we can't deliver according to the contractual specifications with respect to time, then we are potentially in breach of our contract. And so what that enables the buyers of that cotton to do is go and replace it with what is now much cheaper cotton because of the volatility in the markets. And so the impact of those price differences is massive.
Or indeed, presumably, they could renegotiate with you for that same cotton at a lower price.
Exactly. Yeah, that's an option, and that would be their preference. But it's going to be, as I said, a significantly lower price. And we look at, cotton prices peaked at about 230 US cents a pound here a couple of months ago. Today it's back at 150 cents a pound. So that's a huge value loss that could be materialised through this dispute.
You can understand it from a customer's point of view, presumably, that they operate just-in-time inventories, presumably.
That's correct, and obviously if they've got the opportunity to replace $2.30 or $2.40 cotton with $1.50 or $1.60 cotton, they jump at it.
Hasn't this dispute been expected, though? The unions at some stage were going to push for higher salaries for stevedores, and indeed they're now talking about these safety issues, that there have been more deaths of stevedores down here in Australia in the last 3 or 4 years than any other country proportionately.
Look, I think the safety issue is a bit of a furphy, Tiki. The Australian workplace health and safety regulation is recognised globally as being extremely effective. I mean, we've got very, very strict legislation and regulation. We've got very, very vigorous prosecution of the legislation, and there are seriously onerous penalties that confront individuals and organisations who transgress. And so I don't buy into this safety issue. I really don't. I think it's a furphy, and to be honest, I think it's a bit of a clumsy attempt to try and garner some public sympathy.
To what extent are other industries in Australia likely to be effective if these strikes go ahead?
Well, in the immediate term, I guess it depends on how long it rolls for, but cotton right now is the one that's most severely affected. We've got a very significant almond business down in Victoria. That could be affected if it becomes protracted, but ultimately you've got to say that all exporting industries at some stage are going to bear some sort of impact or some sort of cost of this action, because it does contaminate the reliability and the reputation of all Australian produce that's exported. So, this is not just going to be a single industry, single commodity, single month issue.
I've heard talk that this really is still classic enterprise bargaining at the moment between Patrick's and the union. Do you think it really will get to those extraordinary scenes that we saw in 1998?
Look, you'd hope not. You really would hope not. But I think it condemns the system when that sort of extremist action remains as a viable and a possible option for either party. And so whether it does or it doesn't, I really don't know. But I think it condemns the system when that outcome, that extreme outcome, remains a distinct possibility.
What would you like to see happen now?
Well, we'd like them to get back to work, and we'd like to see business resume. We would like to see the matter resolved between the two protagonists, because if it does go on, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. There are going to be an awful lot of innocent bystanders who are going to be caught up in this dispute. So we'd like the wharfies to get back to work, and we'd like both Patrick's and the wharfies to resolve this matter in an amicable way that delivers a sustainable relationship between those two parties.
Richard Haire, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Pleasure, Tiggy.